Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The mayor has called the meeting to order. Mayor Roscoe.
Present.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Present.
Councilmember London.
Present.
Vice Mayor McCormick.
Here.
Councilmember Moss.
Here.
Councilmember Sardinius.
Present.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
And stay standing for the invocation.
To the flag
Of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rabbi.
Before beginning this morning's important meeting with the goal of improving safety here in Key Biscayne, and in response to the recent tragic accident in our community, we together share a moment of reflection and prayer. The Talmud teaches that each person is an olam maleh, an entire universe. There are no two identical people. Each soul is special and unique, and therefore each and every individual is irreplaceable. This makes the discussions around safety so much more important, as each life is of immeasurable and infinite value. Every life lost, God forbid, is a universe lost, and every life protected is a universe protected. This makes the pain of the recent tragedy and loss of life in our community so much stronger. When there's pain and hurt, and especially when it's combined with fear, apprehension, and uncertainty, it can be difficult to approach such situations in a sensitive, respectful, and therefore effective way. For this reason, before beginning discussions, we preface with a moment of reflection and prayer, hoping to be able to navigate a difficult time with moral clarity and inner strength. Please join me in prayer to the Almighty God that we be granted the clarity and wisdom to properly distinguish between the future, the past, and the present. We are all here this morning primarily for the future, to help ensure a safe future for our families and neighbors. For the future, we pray that we each take responsibility to do our part, to learn properly from past mistakes, and to respectfully expect responsibility from others to do their part. For the past, for what has already happened, may our response be one of compassion and empathy. Pointing fingers or assigning guilt can at times be an emotional reflex to the pain after a terrible tragedy, and we must be mindful and take care not to be inflicting more pain where there's already pain. And in the present moment, may we each seek to be there for each other with care and respect as we together navigate a time of difficulty, pain, and fear. And most importantly, may God Almighty bring comfort and healing to those in pain, to those directly impacted. And may God bless our community with safety and happiness. And let us say amen.
Amen. Amen. Please be seated. Thank you, Rabbi Caroline, for your invocation. Good morning, and thank you all for being here today. First, on behalf of the Key Biscayne community, I want to express our deepest sympathies to Frank Andrews and his family for the loss of Megan Welsh Andrews, our beloved friend and neighbor. We also pray for the other family involved in this tragic accident. Our hearts are with everyone who is suffering. I call this emergency council meeting to address the use of e-bikes and e-scooters in our community. And I am proposing today an emergency ban on the use of e-bikes and scooters on our streets, effective immediately. The safe operation of e-bikes and the dangers they pose to pedestrians, cyclists, and other vehicles has been an ongoing discussion in our community. Last year, this council passed an ordinance banning e-bikes from the village green. And with police enforcement and the issuance of tickets, we were able to get bikes off the village green. Through community outreach, our police department conducted 28 presentations that were attended by 1,900 students. However, only 52 parents attended these workshops. We also provided over 3,000 pieces of safety equipment for children, including helmets, lights, and horns. And while we saw an increase in compliance, these motorized bikes continue to be a threat on our streets. From a policy standpoint, we have been working with county and state officials to come up with policies that will hold up across different jurisdictions. This past Tuesday, we had a discussion in this very chamber about increasing dangers on our streets, and we agreed that we had to do more for e-bike scooter safety, and we called our village staff to draft an ordinance for the council's review. While progress has been made, it has not been enough. So today, this is what we're discussing. I'm going to have in a minute, Madam Clerk will read the title of the ordinance. I will move it so that we discuss it and hear from our residents. And I respectfully ask my fellow council members to support me on this important ordinance. Madam Clerk.
An emergency ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, finding a public emergency and prohibiting electric bicycles and motorized scooters on all streets and sidewalks under the village's jurisdiction, providing for enforcement, providing for implementation, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
I move it.
Second.
I move it, excuse me. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Can you take care of that, Mike? Our attorney, Chad Friedman, you want to put some important issues on the table here as to the ordinance,
Sure.
and then we'll open up for public hearing.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'm going to run through the ordinance as well as let the council know certain requirements that are necessary to adopt this ordinance. As the mayor said, this is an emergency ordinance. The effectiveness of this ordinance will be effective today if adopted. This ordinance is up to 60 days pursuant to our charter. It can be reenacted and extended, but per our charter, the maximum that an emergency ordinance may stay in effect is 60 days. During that period, we will continue to work with the council, and the manager and myself will be discussing developing proposals to come back to this council. As you know, I think the mayor has mentioned, and I think you'll hear a little bit later, the county is also working on a proposal which will allow during this 60-day period for that ordinance hopefully to go into effect also. So we'll have a clear picture of what our regulations within the village are. So today you're going to be making a finding of a public emergency. This emergency is one that is finding that it is necessary to prohibit these e-bikes and scooters on our village roads because it affects the life, health, and property within the village. In order to adopt this emergency ordinance, we need a 2/3 vote of this board. So we'll need 5 members to approve this. Once adopted, this ordinance, as I mentioned, will go in effect immediately, and we'll initially start pursuant to the terms of the ordinance with warnings. And then we'll proceed to fines.
Okay.
Fines of $250 for the first violation and $500 for subsequent violations.
What to do?
So what this ordinance does not do, this ordinance does not affect Crandon Boulevard. And we'll hear a bit later today, the village does not have jurisdiction over Crandon Boulevard. However, we're working with our county commissioner who's here, and she'll speak. And hopefully the county will allow the village the ability to enforce certain local laws on Crandon Boulevard. We will, though, still be allowed to enforce state law on Crandon Boulevard, and it's what we continue to do. So we will be enforcing state law requirements relating to these vehicles on Crandon Boulevard, but this ordinance that if adopted today will not affect Crandon Boulevard. I think I'm going to turn a little bit to some of the questions I received from some of the council members regarding this ordinance and what we can and cannot do. I received one question as far as whether or not we can impound these vehicles. I don't believe we can do that today. I think Councilmember London, we can look at it and come back as maybe a solution, but there are significant legal concerns and practical concerns in impounding vehicles that need to be vetted and probably a lot more developed as far as a procedure requirement if we're going to do that. So that's not something that we can do today, but I'm happy to discuss that with you further and work with the administration. But as I said, there are legal and practical concerns that will need to be addressed.
Thank you.
Can we modify these vehicles? We are not allowed to touch these vehicles. So we can't add governors or other restrictions to limit the speed. Can we ban certain classes of these vehicles? Yes, I believe you can. So for electric bikes, there are 3 classes of bikes, 1, 2, and 3. They each have different requirements and speeds. If it's something that the council would like to do, I think we can ban certain classes. As far as regulations generally, the mayor touched on it, and the manager may also touch. We have tried to address these issues at the state level. We have not been successful. The state has preempted us on what we can do. Our hands are tied in a lot of different ways as it relates to the regulations of these vehicles. In particular, if we regulate, we need to treat these like bicycles. That's what the law says. They have the same rights and responsibilities of bicycles. So it affects our ability to regulate. For example, there's been a lot of people saying, can we adopt a minimum age requirement? Well, again, that our hands are restricted. That is not something that we can do unless we're going to treat bicycles and e-bikes the same. And that's something that we can talk about, but our hands are limited. I do believe, as put forth today, that you can prohibit these vehicles. The village is a unique environment that has heavily traveled streets by various forms of vehicles, and these vehicles have proven not to be safe the way the current system is worked on our streets. I also believe, given the emergency circumstances we face, we have the ability to do it under our home rule authority, under the Florida Constitution and Florida law. That concludes my run through of this ordinance. I'm here to answer questions. I know the mayor wants to open up to a public hearing also. The manager is also here to speak if needed about the various things that the village administration has done over the last year regarding safety and other educational efforts. I think the mayor alluded to it already.
Okay. With that, I'll open for a public hearing.
One question.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say something else on the subject of governors. Not that we can impose the requirement that they be installed, but that the requirement could be the installation as a condition to use.
No, the vehicles are the vehicles. We can't demand or require that a bicycle gets retrofitted to operate within this community. That's not something that's within our authority to do. What we can do is, if we feel that, for example, a class 3 bicycle is not something that is compatible with our streets because of its speed, then that's something we can prohibit.
Excuse me then. Chad, assume we approve type 1, which is a bicycle going less than 20 miles an hour, which basically a lot of people can pedal without the motor. And now we ban 2 and 3. And a 2 comes back, a 3 comes back. He's now modified his bike so it classifies as a type 1 Is that acceptable?
You're not, that individual is not allowed to modify his vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
That's a state law requirement.
Thank you.
Okay. Public hearing is now open. I will take the cards. Everyone, please be respectful and let's, respect everybody's time. Our first speaker is Commissioner Raquel Arreglado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, and I join you in condolences to the families involved in this tragic accident. As you mentioned, we've been discussing this for some time, and Chad mentioned some of the hurdles that we've come up against. And just to explain those a little bit more, per Florida statute, if a bicycle can be operated without motorization, it is a bicycle. So since an e-bike can be pedaled, it is a bicycle that can then be turned into an e-bike. So that's kind of the conundrum that we've been dealing with on the state level. However, we have been doing a lot of research as to what has happened in the past. And as you know, golf carts were once in this category, and there was a change in that. I've reached out to the Department of Highway and Motor Vehicles to see if they would consider a petition to change the definition of e-bikes based on the speed. So I think that an argument can be made that there should be a reclassification of the e-bikes because of the speed. But that's a much longer thing that we've discussed. We've literally gone department by department trying to find who can help us with this. As to what I'm doing at the county, we've had several meetings, and one of the things that we wanted to do was provide a comprehensive approach. So it doesn't make sense for you to do something on your residential streets that cannot be done on Crandon. We initially started this conversation talking about scooter and pedestrian issues, and then we moved on to e-bike and pedestrian and e-bike and bike. So it has several components. This is, from the county's perspective, an extraordinary measure. The county has never afforded a municipality the right to enforce its laws on our streets. However, I have made the argument to the county that this is an extraordinary situation, and that many of the problems that we face at this moment here in Key Biscayne are problems that the rest of the county will inevitably face. So the item that I will be presenting in the next few weeks is an ordinance. So it has a first reading, it goes to committee, and then a second reading. It is drafted county-wide. It is open to any municipality. However, if I get pushback, obviously I'll do it exclusively for Key Biscayne. But the way that the item works is that we will work with the village and through an MOU, you will give us the regulations that you have on your streets, and then we will allow you to enforce them on our streets. Now, what the county is going to request and what we need to do sooner rather than later, now that the ordinance has been submitted and will be part of the agenda, is to meet with our police and to start having the conversation about enforcement. I think the hardest part of this is going to be the enforcement. As Chad and the manager have mentioned, what exactly are going to be our enforcement options? One of the ones that we have been looking at is fines. That's the easiest one. Once we get into impoundment, it gets a little complicated for county police and for your police officers, but we'll have a series of meetings to work that through. There is also a distinction between vehicles on sidewalks and vehicles on roads. So I know we'll be talking about that. I've spent a lot of time at the county making that distinction. I think there's a lot of clarity as to no one wants motorized vehicles on sidewalks. Sidewalks are for pedestrians. And as I've said before, I'm committed to looking at paths, and we can bring the University of Miami in with Safe Streets. We've talked about Mass Academy and fixing the bike path that goes through Crandon to see if we can find better bike paths for children in particular. And then consider some areas where we could do semi-protected bike paths at intersections that we know are challenging. Because a lot of folks, when we talk to them about getting these motorized vehicles off the sidewalk, the first thing they say is, we don't want to be on the street. According to Florida law, they have the right to be on the street, on the sidewalk, on the grass, right? So that's kind of the issue that we have in regulating that jointly. So we'll be working with you on that, and I think that that's another option that we have as we move forward. Obviously, the Key has done a lot of education. We're going to help with a heavier lift on the education piece too, anything that you need. And we have reached out to the school district, and they're also interested in helping us push this out because we just haven't had a lot of parents really participate in this. So I spoke to Maritere, and we're going to make that a priority and help you all with those resources. And then, finally, I think the more we involve the public in this, the better. I will keep you abreast of when this comes before the Board of County Commissioners. I ask everyone that's here to please consider attending our meetings when we have our public hearing on this. As I mentioned, the county sees this as an extraordinary measure. I think that it is a necessary measure, and that is the argument that I will make to my colleagues and to the mayor. And I think we need to follow that up with specific requests about protected bike lanes and providing folks with other mobility options that are safe for everyone. So thank you for your time and for taking up this item in such a speedy manner.
Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate you being here.
If anyone has any questions.
Let's get through here. Okay, so the public hearing is, and we're specifically talking about the ordinance today. Okay, so that's what your comments should be addressing today. First speaker, Michelle Esteves.
Michelle Esteves, 425 Great Tree Drive, 204. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Speaking on the ordinance, I'm glad that you are reacting. I'm glad that you have to wait for somebody to lose their life when we had been here for 2 years asking you to do something about this. For the ordinance, we will not be able to do any banning in Crandon Boulevard. The police will not be sufficient to take care of, to continue to protect our lives. The life that Megan that is gone will not be replaced. Don't wait for another tragedy to pass. I think that the same way that the police have not been able to control golf carts, kids riding golf carts on the street, I suggest this to the chief. We, as citizens, we are here to help. We are one village. Please accept us to volunteer. You can empower us to help you to stop kids when they are riding crazy than now Crandon Boulevard, because the streets will be, you will not be able to control this ordinance 100%. And I understand you don't have the manpower. You can empower us to help you. Not to arrest, not to do anything. The same way that you do with our 4th of July committee. We are here to help. We are here to save life. We don't want another tragedy like our friend Megan. Why we have to lose a life when this could have been preventive? So please take at least my offer. I will volunteer. I will help you. I will help the village to control this craziness in our streets and in our Crandon Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Andy Herrera.
Good morning, neighbors. Our condolences are with both families affected with this tragedy.
Excuse me, sir.
My name is Andy Herrera, 250 Fernwood Road.
Thank you.
Like I said, this is a tragedy, and our condolences are with both families. Those families are suffering in pain. We were living in pain. We are living in pain, and before, and still we're living in fear of the dangers that our children are facing in our community. It's time to act. It's late, still we can save life. Our village, our neighbors, our decision is to ask you kindly to take our decision is to ban e-bikes immediately, effective as we leave this room. This is the pain that we're suffering now. No one can feel that pain. Those families are worse than us, but we are still glad. I failed to this community for not advocate that enough to prevent this. I failed myself. I don't know about you guys, but I did fail. This ordinance is not enough. We got motorcycles, not those e-bikes. We have golf cars packed with 10 kids, not even stoppings. This ordinance also needs to address those golf cars. There's a risk and our kids are in danger. It's our responsibility to take action. We delegate that into you guys and it was a failure. That failure cannot continue. If someone wants to continue with that failure, there is a door. That back there. There is a door, but we cannot allow this. Thank you so much.
Next speaker, Mike Davey.
Mike Davey, 50 Ocean Lake Drive. I'm sorry. Hank, Alex. This is horrible. I hate being here. We need to do this ban. We need to do everything. I know there's practical considerations for impounding. We got to stop this. You know, we need to stop this. I was worried it's going to be my father on the sidewalk. And it was Megan. And we lost an incredible light. She was an incredible person. I'm so sorry. So just let's get it done, folks. And we need, you know, you guys came out today and that's great. And I appreciate it. But we got to be at the county and we got to be at the state. Okay, we got to be unified and get this done. I mean, the state has really precluded these people from doing their job up there. And they do it all the time. And we've got to stand up as a community unified. I mean, we've got a good state rep. Vicki Lopez is on our side and she's been working hard for us. But we've got to get behind her and we've got to get these changes made because this can't ever happen again. And we can't go back. And, you know, I don't normally agree with Andy Herrera, but he's right. We've got to take the steps to prevent this from ever happening again. So, sorry for my emotions, but this one really hurts. Thank you.
Next speaker, Francois Derrill.
François Derrill, 799 Crandon Boulevard, in support of the ban on e-bikes.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Gene Stearns.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it's a tragedy that
Your
brings
name
us
and
here
address,
today.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Gene Stearns, 250 Cape Florida Drive.
Thank you.
But I think everybody in this room knew this tragedy was going to happen. We just didn't know who it was going to happen to. And it couldn't have happened to a more wonderful human being who we've lost than Megan. And there just aren't enough words to say, is there some way we could have done it differently? Because we saw it happening. We see kids driving around at speeds that they shouldn't be driving, who don't have driver's licenses, who don't know what stop signs are, apparently. And it's wrong. But understand the root of the problem is that the legislature in our state, for whatever reason, has chosen to make it impossible as they can for local governments to deal with unique local problems. It's called preemption. And what they do is they say, and why does it happen? Because industry groups that sell things like this go and lobby legislators who, and those lobbyists in these meetings that you're not part of, are not invited to participate in, bills are passed and changed that favor industry groups that preclude you from being able to solve a community and local problem. We're a rich community. Our communities can afford to buy e-bikes. And when one kid has one that goes 35 miles an hour, every kid has to go have one that goes 35 miles an hour. Now, when I was 12 years old, I drove to school every day, rain or shine, on a bicycle. And I went miles to get to school from when I was 12 years old. And I would have loved to have an electric bike. And if my friends had electric bikes, I would demand that my parents get me an electric bike. And so while we're passing blame on parents, recognize that the root cause of this is a legislative environment driven by lobbyists who say you can't control it. Your choice is binary, A or B, none or unregulated. And yet, I spent 12 years of my life going around this community helping to create small local governments, the New England model of government close to the people. And the whole concept was communities like ours could come up with regulations so they could be used safely, but not in the hands of people who don't know how to use them safely or not old enough to have the maturity to ever understand how to use them safely. So you've given a binary choice, and in light of what happened this week, the choice is obvious. That's not a great choice. Don't kid yourselves. Saying no to the community, you can't have something that they want, is not a popular choice in some quarters because of a stupid mistake made at a moment in time that can never be undone. But the tragedy is you need to be given the power. We need to go to Tallahassee and say, leave us alone. Stop telling us what to do and not to do. Because what we need to understand by people who use the word freedom is your freedom ends where my nose begins. And we need to start understanding that taking away our freedom and our power to do what we need to be able to do locally needs to end. So I would urge you not only to do this, but go to the legislature and say, give us back the power over our own affairs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Patricia Romano.
Some coffee back there? Yeah.
Good morning, Mayor, Council members, Manager, Attorney. Patricia Romano, 361 Beechwood Drive. Sadly, we're here today a little too late. We have been discussing this for so many years. There was a book by a great writer, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who said, Chronicle de una muerte anunciada. In this case, we knew it was going to happen. We didn't know it was going to be mega. We didn't know that family was going to be destroyed this way. But leadership is doing the right thing, even if the majority doesn't like it. So in this case, we elected you as leaders. So please, be leaders and take us where we need to be. E-bikes, cars, golf carts, everybody is breaking the law here. So we need the police to be out there and put as many fines as they want, because it's the only way that you are going to control this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Rose Haney.
Rose Haney, 472 Glenridge Road. Many of you know me because I've been emailing you for a couple of years on this very subject. I'm very sorry for the family of the tragedy that had to occur, that didn't have to occur. And I have to say that I'm a little mad because I think we should have done something sooner, but I'm happy that you're doing something now. I walk the sidewalks, the streets every day, and in the park usually, and they're always there. It's not safe. It's, you know, e-bike mayhem on Key Biscayne, the kids rule. I have to look left, right. I don't walk with peace. I mean, I have to walk the dog, but I'm walking, looking to the left, to the right, because they come zooming by me in the park, on the sidewalk, everywhere. At night, I'm scared to drive sometimes because they don't have lights, and I'm driving really slow, looking around. The other day, I took my golf cart and I was going down the one-way street in front of the school, and, you know, e-bike passes me on the right, you know, and then he goes right in front of me, makes a left. Well, I was going to make a left too, you know. Another one, a scooter's coming this way, wrong way. But, you know, this is, many of you have the same story. I'm not, you know, and it's almost every day that it's happening. So we really need to ban them and stop waiting for the county and the state and everybody else to do something, because this is our problem. And what I've read on the state law, I'm not an expert or anything, is that each jurisdiction does have some authority. And we should take that authority and do something, because other places have done things in the state of Florida. And we should look at what they have done. And for now, for sure, until we come up with something, is to definitely pass this resolution to ban them, you know, from the streets. And, you know, and I hope the ban, you know, continues unless there's something that we can come up with that our streets and sidewalks will be safe again, where it will, you know, bring back island paradise where we can feel safe walking the sidewalks and streets. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Luis de la Cruz.
Luis de la Cruz, 640 Allendale. So we're here. I was here Tuesday night. You know, I don't know that anything you could have done Tuesday night would have prevented this, but I just can't believe that we had to have a tragedy with probably one of our dearest residents, one of our brightest shining lights, that never had a negative thing to say to anybody at any time. Always positive, always shining bright. It had to happen to somebody, but it's really sad that it had to happen to her. You know, like my wife told me when I told her what happened, she said, you know, I can't believe it. You know, I've known Megan since I came from Cuba. She was my first gringa friend. You know, and that's 60 years ago. So, you know, we need to turn this into a positive somehow. You guys have to act. You can't continue to talk about it. I don't think that that's going to happen any going forward. It's absolutely essential that you take whatever action you can today and worry about what you can do tomorrow. But today, for the first 60 days, I think you need to take what the drastic action, which is banning everything. If the state of Florida cannot let you put age limitations on what they call bicycles, which of course they aren't, you know, then you got to keep it from everybody. By the way, my wife had an incident with one of our neighbors who was a 17-year-old yesterday, because it seems like when you get one on one of those bikes, you think that you don't need to worry about, you know, the regular traffic laws and such. So I'm not even sure that the age matters. But of course, if you put a 9 or 10-year-old on a vehicle that travels up to or maybe more than 20 miles an hour, that's just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy to think that we would not have this tragedy happen, and that if we don't take action today, it will happen again for sure. There's no question about it. I think I'm preaching to the choir at this particular moment because I think that you have all had that in the back of your mind. And I think that you're very smart people. And unfortunately, the two people who have been most aggressive about this particular subject, Brett and Fernando, are not here today, but they're on the phone. It's the time to stop. We need action. We can't let it go any further. And if it requires drastic action now, then that's what the action that has to happen. And then you guys can figure out what you can do with the county, with the state. But don't use that as an excuse anymore. Let's act. Thank you. One more thing.
Nick.
Upside down.
With the permission of the family, I think that whatever you do should carry her name.
Next speaker, David Rocker.
Thank you very much. David Rocker, 791 Crandon Boulevard. Gene Stearns basically preempted everything I was going to say and said it better. I just want to add at this time the comments of everyone, and I think there's a unanimous opinion, since this is a binary decision, either we remain in chaos or adopt this approach. I do want to just add one other thing, since we have this bizarre situation of Crandon Boulevard not being under our control, that any entity that has access to Crandon Boulevard, such as the condominiums with private property, similarly, if all of us who are in such condominiums as I am, urge their officers to enact similar procedures so that we prevent access to Crandon Boulevard. The situation of allowing Crandon to allow this to go on seems utterly bizarre. What can the kids do? Drive up and down? It's nuts. So any of us who have any means of controlling access to Crandon, I urge you to please use your influence and encourage friends to get this done as well. And I thank you all for considering this.
Thank you. Next speaker, Jennifer Buttrick.
Jennifer Buttrick, 180 Cape Florida Drive. My deepest condolences to the Andrews family. I love you guys. I've known you my whole life, and Megan was a shining light, and her riding her bike around Key Biscayne is a quintessential Key Biscayne image seared in my mind. She rode past me at around 6:50 on my street on Wednesday night, and we greeted each other with a smile and our hellos, as we always do. And I can't believe I won't see her doing that anymore. We all love her so much and are so sorry for all of you. And it is a difficult situation, but everyone sitting up here today acts like this is easy. It isn't easy. This hasn't been easy. And so I don't want any of our elected officials to feel that we're sitting here today blaming you, because we're not. It's unfortunate that oftentimes it takes a tragedy to make change, but the complicated issues involving the state and the county and local municipalities make this difficult. And there are people who legitimately use e-bikes, and they're good for the climate. And so I think that's been weighing on your minds in the last couple years as we've been wrestling with this issue. So now, unfortunately, there's no choice but to make a binary decision to ban these bikes. But we all need to use our collective voices to demand change so that local municipalities have the ability to take control of these issues. We should be able to have licensure requirements. We should be able to have trainings. We should be able to have restrictions on the use of what is a motor vehicle. So it doesn't stop today. It's not just this issue. So we understand that it's difficult and it's unfortunate that we're here, but we have no choice today but to take this emergency action. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Ana Maria Mandojana. She left? Okay. Aline Nicholson?
Good morning. Eileen Nicholson, 769 Allendale. I've been here since 1972 and I love this island. My heart goes out to the family and the rest of the Key. Our hearts are broken. I'm 100% in favor of the ban that's before you today. After we start talking about it again, I would like to include the electric scooters. We haven't talked about them today, but I'd like to have the council consider them also. They go up to 25 miles an hour, and they are either in the street or on the sidewalk, endangering pedestrians and bicycle riders as well. So I'm 100% in favor of the ban, as I'm sure the majority here is, and I urge you to pass it and then give consideration to the electric scooters. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Toby Rohr.
Good morning, everyone. Toby Aurora, 791 Crandall Boulevard. I don't have an opportunity to speak to the council very often in this manner. I've known each and every one of you personally. I know that you do a really good job trying to keep us safe, but obviously it's not enough. We need you to really put your thinking hat on, because you have the support of the community, as you can see, to make sure that we come up with solutions. I would appreciate if you would include some of us to be part of these discussions. I thank you for the opportunity. And to Frank and your family, my heart goes out to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, Joanne Young.
Good morning, Joanne Young, 600 Harbor Drive. I'm so sorry for the family. Condolences that we've known each other for so long, and it's a shame that we have to be here today, but for the last 2 years we've been talking about this, and something should have been done before, but now we are at this stage where we don't want it to happen again. And we don't know who's going to be next, because you know the bikers are going to still be out there, the e-bikers and the scooters. And Harbor Drive is my biggest consideration, because I live on Harbor Drive, and the sidewalks, the e-bikes are going from the streets to the sidewalks, and you never know when they're coming because you can't hear them. And it's to a point that we need to do something immediately, and I'm so glad that you're taking this action today, Mayor Roscoe. Thank you for bringing this to us, and I hope everyone votes for this today, because we need it done today. Today is the day. And anything else that we can do to protect our residents, we need to do that. For our police force, you've been great, and we want you to be greater. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Alan Fine.
Alan Fine, 525 Allendale Road. I told Frank yesterday that Megan and Frank saved my son's life. And taught him, and really both my boys, how to be citizens, how to be men in a society. And like Mike and Andy, I'm more mad at myself, because for the last couple of years, I've seen this debate going on, and I'm thinking, my goodness, we have a situation here where, one day kids can't drive Vespas or Vespas with some other kind of engine, and then one day they can, and it's okay. It's crazy. It's crazy. And during those 2 years, I've been thinking this is crazy. Like Clint Eastwood, I'm shaking my fist at these kids, but I'm not doing anything. I'm leaving all the hard work to you guys, and you're faced with the free state of Florida telling you that you don't have the power to regulate them, and frankly, that makes the legal issue, the policy issue for you today quite simple, and something that literally everyone in this room agrees upon. So, you know what you have to do. On a day like today, I would have Megan say, and I heard the same thing about Mike Davey. She'd see you and she'd say, "You're having a rough day. Let me give you a hug." And that was Megan. We spent hours and hours and hours talking about how to raise kids, and teach kids with learning disabilities how to live a productive and meaningful life. Now she's gone, and I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. We all thought it was going to happen. We thought it was going to be somebody we didn't know. And here we are. So thank you for indulging me. I've said a lot of things that other people have already said, but I know you'll do the right thing today.
Thank you. Next speaker is Maria Inez Torres.
My name is Maria Inez Torres, 791 Crandon Boulevard. I don't know, I didn't know Megan. I don't know the family of the kid that had this accident. I'm a mother of a young teenager that begs me every day to have these bikes. I have said no so many times. I haven't gave it to her. Last time she made a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation for me to get this bike. All her friends has it, and I still say no, and I haven't done anything else than preventing my kid from having one. And me being here, I know I'm not going to be the most popular mother in Key Biscayne. My daughter probably is going to be mad at me for being here, but I have talked to her and I said, these bikes are not bikes, they are motorcycles, they are making everyone dangerous. I cannot give you something like this. I cannot give you something that I will be awful if something happens to you or somebody else. I'm not going to be popular, neither one of you is going to be popular, because these bikes are everywhere in the kids, and every kid wants them or have them. And I probably not going to be popular, neither you, but if this cannot be regulated, this is not a bike. This shouldn't be in a sidewalk. It shouldn't be driven by kids. This is a lethal weapon for kids. If you cannot regulate it, then you have to ban it. I'm sorry, you have to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Richard Heiss, next speaker.
We're all drawn here today by the tragedy, obviously. I'm here today to offer my personal services as a
name and address.
Richard Heiss, 781 Crandon Boulevard.
Thank you.
Again, we're all drawn here today by the tragedy. I'm here today to offer two things. One, my personal services to village manager, the village attorney, and the mayor in thinking out ultimate solutions. And I'll give you an example of one step. One step is to take the same position that the city of Miami and the city of Hillside did. And that is to enter into a 99-year lease with the Dade County to control for, as though we own it, because the lessee is someone who owns the title for a term of years, because I think that's a significant component of putting together other things that are related to this. And I also would have an expertise in helping find the financing sufficient and necessary to maintain the 2 roads that are now owned by Harbor Drive and Crandon. And one example is developing understanding of various financing mechanisms that are available to pay for the maintenance of the roads. It's a very practical thought. Now, a bit about my background. I'm 87 years old, but by 1960, I had earned a JD, an MBA, and a certificate as a CPA. And then over the years, was on the board of 2 Fortune 500 companies. So maybe I'm not worth it, but I'm willing to offer my services.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Mark Freed.
Hello, Mayor, Council. Mark Freed, 525 Warren Lane. First of all, my condolences and love to the family. I will certainly miss your mother, your wife, who I met in 1963 when she came to my house on Harbor Court to play with my sister Diane. She was 9 or 8 years old. I'm in support of the ordinance. I've listened to a lot of speakers. I listened to Gene Stern with a very global look at the state of Florida. My focus is on this village, on you, on the chief of police. I think you failed us. I think you failed the community, you failed the family, and you certainly failed Megan. You talk about Crandon Boulevard. We can't control Crandon. We control 90% of our residential area. We control every stop sign. We control every intersection. And these scooters and e-bikes have been going through them illegally for 2 years. I hope you took the time to read my email that I sent to every one of you yesterday, the chief of police. It was a recopy of the letter I sent to you February 9th, 2023, that spoke of this situation, identical other than the person and the place. So what I'd like to see is enforcement. We've learned from experience that education has not worked. We've listened to the council state that they're going to start enforcing. We're not going to let scooters on the village green. The enforcement lasted 48 hours, 72 hours. And then they were there racing back on the green. What it is, it's a lack of initiative and policy to say, we're going to enforce and we're going to upset some parents. And we're going to face the music of having people come to our office and waste our time talking about the fact that we upset their children, we upset their wife. It's not about that. It's about you set the rules, and if you can't set the rules, let's replace people at the top. Let's go ahead and take a look deeply. Am I fit to sit in these seats? Should you look at the policy of the chief of police? Is it time to change the chief of police so that we save lives on the key? We hear about the protection and the safety of Key Biscayne. The crime rate is down. This is down. The crime rate of e-bikes and the violations has not been down, and we're suffering for it. Rabbi Caroline said, let's not look back and dwell on the past. What can we do in the future? Well, please, in the future, make it work. Protect our people. Thank you.
Next speaker, Carla Vigil Berger.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carla Vichelberger. I wrote down a few things that
Excuse
I wanted
me, your
to.
address, your name, and address. Your address as well. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. 250 Galen Drive.
Thank you.
I made a list of the things that I wanted to talk to about today. I am a mother of 3 teenagers, and the 3 of them have e-bikes. One being stolen in the last 3 weeks. I feel really bad for. I don't know any of the families. Everybody has said that they feel bad about the lady who died, but nobody has said anything about the kid who has to live with it his entire life. And I feel sorry. Speak into the microphone, please. And I feel sorry for both families equally. Everybody, I want to start. The solution is not to ban and to take the easy way out. The solution is to educate and set rules. I want my kids.
Okay, everyone. Quiet.
Everybody stop, okay?
Quiet.
The solution is to educate and set rules. I have 3 teenagers, and even though I said, you don't leave without a helmet, you have to buckle your helmet, you have to look at every intersection. I don't know if they're doing that. So if somebody stops them and gives them a fine, I will be happy to pay for the fine. I will be happy for them to take the bike away. I'm still talking.
Please.
And I'm going to take 2 hours.
Please.
To keep interrupting. So I want safety for the kids. I want rules for our teenagers. This island has more kids and teenagers than adults. And not just teenagers to be educated, but also adults. The solution is, okay, what about cyclists? They don't respect the roads or traffic lights, and you guys built a path for the cyclists. How many times have we been intercepted by a cyclist and we almost had an accident or we almost ran on them because of their fault? But we are trying to look after their safety, so that's why we built cyclist path. Last year, there was an accident with an e-bike. I know the girl. It's a friend of my daughter, a sister of my daughter's friend. The girls had an accident on crossing the flashing lights with the e-bike. The car didn't stop at the flashing lights. You guys do anything about that incident? If cars, bicycles, e-bikes, tricycles, Vespas, you don't ban cars because there's an accident. The person responsible is the one behind the wheel. So it's the adult driving the car, the teenagers driving the golf cars, the preteens driving those e-bikes, the kids driving bicycles. Everybody behind the wheel are the ones responsible, not the vehicles, but the kids responsible. And I want rules and education for the kids. One of the things that my daughter said yesterday is, why don't we go to a class, a 3-day course to be able to drive an e-bike? Give us a driver's license to learn the rules, to learn to stop, this is ridiculous.
Quiet, please. Quiet, please.
How fast do you think the cyclists go? They go 20 miles per hour. You keep saying that somebody talk about scooters. The scooters go 15 miles per hour. Ban the ones that go 25 miles per hour. Now the e-bikes, if you're a responsible parent, you know that all the e-bikes have an app. And as a parent, you can control the speed of your kid's bike. So the speed can be controlled. And none of you know that because nobody has done the research about it. So the fault goes on the parents. The fault goes on the parents. We all take the easy way out. Ban the bikes. We all take the easy way out. I'm not, my kid is responsible. I don't know what they're doing. Well, you should know what your kid is doing. You should control the speed on the bike. Now, you talk about putting the kids, you can only ban You can only do the ordinance for 60 days. In the meantime, the kids can drive on Crandon. Putting the kids on Crandon, is that security and safety for our own kids in this village? You're talking about taking the kids out of the streets in the neighborhoods. The thing is that the fact is that the lady died because she was not wearing a helmet.
Okay.
Was she wearing a helmet?
Okay, your time is up, so
Okay.
just wrap it up.
They're not letting me speak. If they don't let me speak, if they don't let me speak.
Quiet.
Okay, the fact is that somebody died because they were not wearing a helmet. If we make everybody who drive any type of vehicle, any type of bikes, wearing a helmet, you're interrupting.
Time.
No, they keep interrupting. They keep interrupting.
Okay, now I'm kind of asking you to go outside, please.
Right.
Please,
But
come on,
I
come on.
haven't finished because
It's time for you to go. Por favor.
Okay,
Por
this
favor.
is not fair because everybody has talked.
Gracias.
Quiet. Quiet. All right. All right. All right. Quiet. Quiet. Quiet.
I have the right to speak.
Quiet. All right.
This is America, goddammit! So let people speak!
All right. All right. Next speaker.
I want to hear one side. She had a different point of view than everybody else, and we cut her off.
We heard her for more than 3 minutes. So next speaker, Lorraine Hicks.
Hey, tell them we're not going to go forward till they shut up.
Lorraine Hicks. Last call, Lorraine Hicks. Anna Palm. Anna Palm. Barry Glowski. Gloves. Can't read it correctly. Barry. Kathy King. Kathy King.
Good morning. Thank you for waiting. I was in the other room. My name is Anna Palm. I live on 199 Ocean Lane Drive. My heart goes out, my love, to the family and friends of Megan. It's been a really horrible few days processing what's happened, considering how many voices have urged for this council to ban the use of e-bikes and e-scooters in this community. I'm speaking in response to this motion to ban it. As a KB resident, I've personally called the police department, stopped officers in the park numerous times, asking how and what we can do as a community to support you members to ban these e-bikes and e-scooters for our safety. In response to Councilwoman Regalado, it makes me sad because our island is a special community whereby e-bikes and e-scooters are not a unique component to other communities. This community is a place where people can walk on the sidewalk, and they should be able to walk safely on the sidewalk. It is doubtful that other communities in the state of Florida have this issue because these e-bikes are very expensive. These e-bikes will not be stopped by a $200 fine. And I understand that it is going to be very difficult to figure out a way to stop and prevent and impound these e-bicycles and e-scooters, but that is the only way to protect our children and our families. We would please urge and support any additional research, any additional legal action that needs to be taken to find a way for this to be implemented in our community permanently. We also believe that it is important that we recognize that for these individuals walking the streets of Key Biscayne, every day we're in fear that we're gonna get hit by an e-bike and an e-scooter. I had to many times jump out into the street to protect my baby from being hit by an e-bike and e-scooter while I'm walking on the sidewalk. So I really urge this community to please listen. It's a sad day here, and we urge that this incident please catalyze some sort of permanent solution to this issue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Nassim Canetti. Nassim.
Mr. Kennedy, 150 Ocean Lane Drive. I can't top all the comments and suggestions, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, Mayor, my question, my document was a question whether this ordinance can be extended. Whether this, the question that I posed to the mayor on the questionnaire was more of a question whether this ordinance, while different issues are being worked out, whether it can be extended by another 60 days,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
We'll address that. Thank you for your question. Mauricio Gomez.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Mauricio Gomez, 200 Ocean Lane. I was living here for the last 30 years, and I'm the grandfather of the kid that somebody said has an accident in Cranton Boulevard. 18 months ago, my grandson was crossing the flashlights, and one car have an accident with a car. That night, if you can imagine, I talked with the mayor, with the councilors, with the chief of police, and you know, if we want, and I spoke with you, Joe, about that, if we want safe streets, we need to improve our security. It's unbelievable that the yellow lights this night was not working. And they say that it's not a responsibility of the village. It's a responsibility of Miami-Dade County. And we are a village, we are a family. I invite you, all of you, that we have a tragedy today in our hands, but we need to talk everybody as a village. No, everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a point of view. My point of view is a disaster because nobody helped us. I don't want to sue nobody. I don't want to win with my grandson $200. I want that all the kids is safe, all the people is safe, people like me, all this in my last years, safe. But if you see me in my scooter crossing the street, it's unbelievable because the yellow light is prevention. It's not a red light. And nobody, believe me, nobody stop when you are crossing the crossing. And then we invite you, Mayor, it's impossible that the village doesn't have the responsibility and Miami-Dade need to come to fix something for us. And then, please, this is a village of kids. This is a village of old people like me in my last years. I want to die here in Key Biscayne because I believe I'm part of the community. But for me, it's amazing crossing the street with my scooter because nobody respect. Maybe you respect, but somebody out of the island don't respect the yellow lights. And then, please, Joe, I spoke with you. I spoke with the chief of police, and okay, I'm people of peace, and we don't want to put the lawyers to talk about an accident of my grandson. My grandson was in a hospital for 3 days, in very bad condition, and today he has a little trauma. We are working with that, with this accident, but we are alone. And it's unbelievable that the city says that this is a responsibility of Miami-Dade, and Miami-Dade doesn't do nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm the mother of the child that was hit in Crandon. He is my father.
Uh-huh.
And I do have to say that the reaction of the village at that moment was that it was Simon's fault. He was crossing, he pushed the lights, he was in a scooter, and his life was saved because of the pull of the scooter. He was wearing his helmet, he did everything that he was supposed to do, but the city gave their back on us as a family. Now we have a huge incident. It's a disaster for 2 families, and you have to implement laws. It's not banning them. It's people that have to wear the helmets. We as parents have to be responsible for our kids. Now you're gonna put the solution of banning in 60 days. As you said, the parents that we took our kids to do the process. It was a joke. It was a 20-minute class. You gave lights to the children, a little blinking light. That does not work. That's not the solution. This is a key that kids should be able to ride what they have to ride responsibly. And that's why parents should be involved. You're not involving the parents are not involved. Now we have a tragedy. But everything could have been prevented with laws that were taken to place, not for 20 minutes, as you said, or right in the park of the police saying, oh, you're going too fast. What about the rest of the streets? The accident was in Hampton, where there's a lot of residents that have asked the city to light up specifically Hampton Lane. That is extremely dark. They have asked for traffic bumps there because of the speeding. And you're not addressing the speeders. You're not addressing 10 p.m. golf carts going at high speeds if you're walking. So you can ban e-bikes, but put in regulations. Make it work.
Thank you. Okay.
Excuse me.
Last.
Called my name, Kathy King.
Yes, I did. Call you.
Kathy King, and my address is protected. A year ago, Joe, I think the chief of police, I think the village attorney, maybe the manager, gave a speech at the Key Biscayne Bar Association. It was supposed to be hot topics on Key Biscayne. It quickly became e-bikes, e-scooters. Every single person in that room said it's an accident waiting to happen. It's not a question of if, it's when, and how bad is it going to be. A year has gone by since that happened. Nothing changed, and my heart goes out to you. I'm speechless when I think about the tragedy that happened. You have to make a tough decision. You have to do your job. You have to protect the residents of the village. It's not a question of, oh, my kid wants what every other kid has, because my kids want what every other kid have too. But your job is to protect us, and I'm sorry you failed on that. Please enact this ban and make it permanent. Thank you.
Thank you. Lorraine Hicks, Barry Klovsky, and if not, then Steve Simon.
Right here? Okay.
Your
Thank
name
you.
and address.
I'm Barry Glevsky, 251 Crandon Boulevard. Right here. I'm a snowbird. I teach driving in Boston. And I feel very strongly that a lot of the responsibility is on the parents from the beginning. The reason I say that is you have to take the time to teach a kid what a stop sign is. And I don't mean just how it looks, what you actually do at a stop sign, what it actually means at a stop sign. That you have to make sure that left and right, who may have the right of way, that they're obeying that. You have to teach a kid what a yield sign is and what it means, what it looks like, what you're supposed to do. And if it's your turn to go, but there's someone coming, you don't say, oh, well, it's my turn to go. I think I'll go anyway. No, you can't do that. And this, in my opinion, comes directly from the top. Now, you add to that, in my opinion, the driving in Florida is not very good. So you can't really depend that a car is going to see you when you're in your right of way, you're in the crosswalk, whatever. You can't trust that. I don't trust anybody. I honestly drive as if I'm the only one who can control my situation because I have no control over anybody else. I see kids and pedestrians, adult pedestrians, they're in the crosswalk, the light's up, and they're just, walking along. They don't bother to look to see if there's a car coming. Too often there's a car coming. So again, and also, by the way, very few of the e-bikes and very few of the bicycles, a lot of pedestrians are not wearing any kind of reflective gear or have any kind of lights at night, which makes it even more difficult for a motorist to see what's going on. You might see the flashing light, but you might not see the object in the crosswalk. Driving is hard enough, riding a bicycle is hard enough when everything goes right. You have to be able to see what's happening in front of you. You have to be able to identify what it is, and you have to be able to make an adjustment. 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kids don't have that capacity to make those kinds of assessments and those kinds of decisions. That's why it comes from the top. The parents have to take them out, show, like I said before, show them exactly what a stop sign means, etc., etc. And not just do it once. You may have to do it several times. I've done it with my own kids. I've done it with my grandkids. And I think I've taught them how you have a chance to be safe if you do your part. And I do strongly feel, and I've been seeing a lot of what you guys are talking about, and it just amazes me how a kid will do. And again, kids being kids, I get that, okay? But how it amazes me how they do what they do, weaving in and out of pedestrian traffic, laughing and yelling. 3 kids on an electric scooter, no helmets. 3 kids on an electric bike, feet dangling, laughing. Oh, this is a great time. I don't have to worry. Henry's going to do a good job. It's a big problem. It's been going on for a long time, but I still hear absolutely no solution. And I think part in my point of view, and I've discussed this with the HOA at Key Biscayne.
You got to wrap up, please.
I can, what? You tell me when. You want another minute?
No, like...
You want me to finish now?
Like 10 seconds.
10 seconds. Again, it starts at the top. I think the parents need to share the responsibility.
Thank you for your...
And they don't.
Okay, we're gonna lose our quorum up here very fast. So please be very, very quick so that we can hopefully get to a vote. Steve, come.
Steve Simon, 335 Harbor Lane. This may have an impact on the problem with Crandon Boulevard and just in general. this is something that would be under the control of the village. Require parents to sign consent forms for any activities run on village property, such as the community center, or as a village program, such as youth team sports, for example, some of which are held on the field at Mast Academy, stating that they, the parents, agree that their child will not arrive nor depart from these activities on, by, or with these types of motorized vehicles. Another suggestion is we have a youth council. The youth council, clearly, these are their peers. And bring this before the youth council. See if they want to address this as both an educational campaign and also as a way to approach the student council at Mast to see if there could be some student council legislation at Mast. Lastly, Mark Freed is my brother-in-law. And that story, about 60 years ago, about his sister, my wife Diana, 42 years, she and Megan were just so close. And everyone in our family, Frank, PJ at the gym.
Thank you. Anna Soler. Anna Soler. Armando Núñez. Okay, like I said, we're going to lose our quorum up here, and we want to see if we can get this done as quickly as possible so that we can accommodate everyone's schedules here. Armando, yeah, can you make it quick?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Armando Nunez, 320 Romano Avenue, Coral Gables. But I can qualify of living here for 51 years and knowing Megan since she was 15 years old. And I guess, you know, when I heard about this morning, I was devastated. You know, I've known Frank and the family or the kids. They grew up with my boys. And if you guys can do anything to alleviate this problem, I see it every morning. I come on, I work at the Ocean Club. Every morning I stop at 7-Eleven. I watch these kids go across the street with those e-bikes and the e-scooters, and they don't even listen to the crossing guard. The crossing guard has no power at all. You know, they just run by, and there's 4 or 5 of them together in a group. You know, you see them driving down the sidewalk like maniacs. I've even watched the e-bikes and the e-scooters come onto the island over the bridge. You know, there's like 5 or 6 of them that come early in the morning. And it's definitely a problem. And this is a time where you guys can make a difference. You know, this has been coming for a long time. It's too bad it had to be someone like Megan, you know, who had to pay the price. You know, but it's definitely been coming for a long time. And this is your chance to do something. You know, and I'm asking you, as an old-time resident, as a former director of public works here, you know, we tried to make this place safe, and it got out of control, you know, and it's been a long time coming. And please take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I close the public hearing. Council, we've got 2 on Zoom, Mr. Vasquez and Mr. Moss, if you want to make some comments. This is your opportunity.
Mayor, if I may, I just want to go, I'll just go first one really quick. First of all, my heartfelt condolences to the family, Megan, and also to that child and to the family of them as well, because I'm sure they have a lot of weight to carry on from now on. I said what I said on Tuesday. I stated what I needed to state. I felt we just spoke enough about it, and we needed to move forward. And this is the main concern that I had, that we were going to have a tragedy in our hands. It is what it is. We're moving forward. We need to move forward, and we need to have a more robust argument. Today is not the day, but we will have a more robust argument and discussion about how we go about these things and how do we move forward with issues like this, especially with the motorbikes, and how we're going to move forward. I really just want to proceed. I want to move forward. I think we cannot waste any more time, not even a minute. We just need to move forward. So absolutely have my vote on this. Let's move it. Let's get it done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moss?
Mayor? Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I just want to say that I'm very sorry to hear about this incident and what happened to Megan. And we lost a beautiful, positive human being who helped many, many children, and it's a huge loss to our community. And I echo what Fernando just said, that we cannot forget the effect that this will have on this child's life who was put into this position, and we don't want that to happen to anybody. You have to live with this incident, and especially a child. One thing I just want to mention is that it's extremely, and I think intentionally, deceiving of how the state calls these e-bikes, because they're motorcycles. Bikes are lighter, they're difficult to maintain high speeds, they don't accelerate instantaneously. Electric motorcycles, aka e-bikes, are fast, heavy, they're quiet, and children are not mature enough to understand the risks and the rules to operate them. And this is only a recipe for disaster, as we all have now witnessed. We see constant reckless driving, running stop signs at full speed, no lights at night, exceeding the speed limit, texting while going 28 miles an hour, driving the wrong way on the roads and streets, driving on sidewalks, passing cars on the left, going around roundabouts the wrong ways. I mean, we can go on. And unfortunately, there are some kids who do follow the rules and have good parenting to teach them what to do, but the majority is not that case. And it's also unfortunate that a lot of the attitudes of the children when we're confronted by anyone about the dangerous behavior is sometimes even worse. We all want to have the age limits. We all wanted to have requirements to go through certain type of training, but we're not allowed to, as Jean mentioned. So for me, I think the state wrongfully categorized these as bicycles because they're not, they're motorcycles. We sent out lobbying to change this at the state level without any success. And enforcement to me is really not feasible. We have hundreds of kids in the streets, and we would need a massive amount of police officers only to police kids on dangerous toys. I think that we've exhausted our efforts to find solutions, and they really don't work. And it resulted in a horrific death, sending a shockwave throughout our community. These motorcycles, operated by children, will result in more fatal accidents, just as if we would allow our children to drive cars. We cannot let this continue, and if we fall short in the next few months on banning children from motorcycles, electric motorcycles, aka e-bikes, it will result in more deaths and serious injuries. And it is our duty to protect the people of Key Biscayne, so I'm in full support of passing a ban until the state allows us to regulate by age requiring driver license to operate electrical motorcycles in our opportunity. And then finally, I just want to say that this is our opportunity now to save more lives in the future in Megan's honor. And I want to thank you guys for calling this meeting, and you have my full support.
Thank you. Ms. McCormick.
I'm going to be brief because I want to make sure that we can get this vote done before we lose quorum. Sorry, I guess I can't really be brief. My heart is broken for this community. My heart is broken for the Andrews family, for the family of the child involved in this terrible accident. I think there's been so much said today that I could repeat that I agree with, and it's not quite necessary, but this is a very unique community in many, many ways. One, it is a unique community to have this situation at all. We're extremely densely populated. We have an extremely high percentage of our population that are children, and we have a lot of people who can afford to buy their kids $3,000 toys to ride to school. And that mix comes together to make a very, very dangerous situation. And while I do agree that some people had said, I think Jennifer Buttrick said, e-bikes are not the enemy, not the problem, that there are some appropriate applications until we can put those kind of regulations in place. And as Councilmember Moss said, treat them as they are, motorcycles, and require licenses and age restrictions. Until that time, I think we should have a permanent ban, but I have a couple of comments that I'd like to add as possible amendments to the ordinance. In addition to the ordinance covers scooters and e-bikes, I think that we should add other motorized vehicles like electric skateboards and hoverboards and one wheels, because if a kid is going to get one taken away, it's not going to be too long until they're badgering their parents to get something else. Another addition or amendment that I would like to, if we cannot do it today to pass this ban, I would like to meet again very soon to figure out how we can impound them, because I think it is the only way that we will get the message out. We have tried to enforce rules and regulations. There's not enough manpower. There's not enough will for compliance, as we've seen. And until you start taking bikes away and they just don't have them anymore, we're just not going to get compliance with this ban. And banning them is going to be useless because the bikes will still be out there and we can't keep up with them to give them tickets and fines. And while they're riding on the streets, people are at risk. So I would like to figure out if there is any way that we can add impounding to this. And I am happy to support with my vote any type of resources that we need to put to that. If it's renting space at the entry block for a storage container, if it's getting an additional additional manpower, a truck. I mean, people have dog catchers, we can have a bike catcher. We need to get a handle on this, and that's it for me.
And you're next.
Frank, my heart goes out to you, your family. Nothing I can say will make it any better. I am for a permanent ban on the Type 2 and Type 3 e-bikes. Type 2 are what we call the motorcycles with fat tires. You don't have to pedal them, and they go very fast. Type 3 are the ones pedal assisted. They go 28 miles an hour. It's sort of crazy to have these bikes in Key Biscayne where we have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. But yet we have bikes we permit, as Gene said, we've been preempted by the state from regulating these things. But we can ban the Type 2 and Type 3. And then we have a Type 1, which is just a pedal-assisted bike, which goes less than 20 miles an hour. In fact, unless you have really great lungs and great legs, you're not going to go that way either. And it is a means of transportation. So I'd like to see forward that those would be permitted, but the other two would be permanently banned, not just 60 days, so that we don't have these people running around the queue on those bikes. Thank you.
Okay, Frank?
We're all really affected by what's really a sickening tragedy. It's really a tough time. I feel grateful for the heart and soul of this community. we've been grappling for too long with the notion that it may be not so much the device that's the problem, but the user. That doesn't work, and we can't afford to continue that theoretical discussion any longer. Even if we grapple, and we should grapple with this, trying to create safe passage, for example, to masks and things that we've been motivated for too long to try to solve for. Personally, I feel like we always work very hard to try to find the best path, to try to thread the needle on difficult problems. I wish we tried less hard on this one. We have no choice but to take this action. I think I'd like to focus on a couple of points in the ordinance. The first sort of sanction, the first penalty threshold seems way too tepid to the point of uselessness to me. We're past the point of warnings doing anything for safety. And I wonder why that's necessary and whether we can't push the edge on enforcement a little bit stronger. The other part about the sanctions are, as we've observed with respect to some code compliance problems, too many people treat tickets as matters of personal hygiene, as we've heard. The idea of the penalties being set at these levels, it seems to me, will not be a sufficient deterrent. I also, I think that we will continue the discussion that we've all introduced as to, differentiating between the types of these vehicles. Allison's point about hoverboards and the others absolutely, definitely ought to be included in this. It's not complete without covering all of the things that move silently and rapidly and that create these threats of conflict. Lastly, for sake of the ordinance, I'm wondering why it's necessary or desirable to include the allowance for continuing use on Crandon. It is what it is. It speaks for itself, and why should we say what we're trying to overcome in our own ordinance?
So I can address both you and the Vice Mayor's comments. Number one, warning, that's within your discretion. The administration and myself, when drafting this, included that so there would be a grace period, because there is going to be a change in behavior that's occurring. But if it's the will of the council to go to a straight fine, that's within your ability. The amount of the fines, we don't think we can go higher because we're capped under state law for this. As for impoundment, I believe that we need to make some other changes to our code in order to do this just legally. If it's the will of the council, you have my commitment. We'll bring an item on the March 12th meeting for that. There are procedures that have to go into place when you start to impound people's vehicles. Aside from the practical matters, which is what the manager will be dealing with, there are also some procedures. So as far as due process and taking people's vehicles and getting them back and putting that structure in our code, which we do not have today. So I would bring an item forward if it's the will of the council to set that up. As far as the other, which were called vehicles, I don't believe those are vehicles under Florida law. We can regulate them, I believe, outside of this, but if you want to include them in this, we can, but they're not, I don't think they're actual vehicles per se, but we can do that. That's outside of this discussion. I know we're looping them in now here, but that's outside of the state law relating to e-bikes and motorized scooters.
Well, then I have a motion to amend the ordinance that I'd like to suggest, but also I'll get to that in just a second.
If I can, I'm sorry, Councilmember, just can we be clear on what that is? Because remember, this is going to go into effect. So I understood it was a hoverboard, a skateboard,
electric skateboard.
One wheel.
And there's I don't know what it's called, but it's
One wheel.
One wheel. The distinction, Chad, is that they're motorized.
Any motorized device.
Because they all have
Okay.
the same issues. They're silent, they come up on you fast, and they're driven recklessly by people.
Okay, I understand.
The last comment, and then I'll get to my motion, is we've obviously tried very hard for a long time to change parental involvement to do the education part of this with kids and with families. This is going to get adopted. We should be reaching out to people to make sure that they know that this is in effect in the most aggressive way we possibly can, and that we mean to enforce this. So the motion would be to eliminate the warning because it's nonsensical in light of all that's happened, and just if we're stuck with this fine, these fines levels, so be it. And then I'd like to come back as soon as we possibly can and think about what steps are next.
Okay, let's take that one at a time here. Mr. Attorney, are you clear on this first amendment that we're talking about?
Yes, I'm clear that it's any motorized device that's yes. I understand the intent. I'll have to figure out how we word it, but I do understand the clear intent and what it's trying to be addressed.
And then the second motion is on the warning.
Okay, let's take that one. First Amendment. Do we need to do a roll call, or we can just do a voice vote?
Why don't you go ahead and just do a roll call? I think it.
Okay, on the
May I
amendment.
have clarity? The first motion is to include electric skateboards, hoverboards, and one wheels in the
Is that how you?
That are motorized.
that are motorized, and
Yes.
I need a second for that motion.
Second.
Okay. So the amendment to the ordinance is before us.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, next amendment. Next amendment.
Which is moved by Councilmember Kaplan in a second
Second.
to eliminate the warning. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, is that it?
Do we want to strike the portion about Crandon?
I didn't address that. So, Councilmember, you can strike it. I will tell you, and we had a lot of discussion yesterday about this topic, and it was put in there for two reasons. One was to help our police officers in the enforcement, because they're going to have this ordinance, they're going to be able to show people, you know, what the rules are. Two, since there seems to be confusion regarding the applicability of this ordinance, to put it on its face, that this doesn't affect Crandon. But it can come out. There's no legal reason other than, you know, to keep it in, other than it was acknowledgement.
I think if
So-
it gives clarity for the rank and file, we should keep it in.
Okay. And that's it. And you're covered, right?
Yeah, I just had one other comment that I thought of in response to what Frank said. In terms of communication, getting this out, especially since we're going to start enforcing and fining immediately, I think that we need to have it on the entry block sign. I would also say we have the president of the Mass PTSA here. I'm sure that she will help us with communication if we give her something to put out in chats. Also, that we need to do the same with the K-8 Center because
To that end, I spoke to all the principals yesterday.
Great.
So started to let them know that this might be coming. Okay, Mr. Sardinhas, and then I think we'll
first and
close.
foremost, you know, this is a time of healing. My heart goes out to the families. I'm heartbroken. Lenny, Tom, Frank. I want to say how proud I am of this community for coming out today and speaking your minds. I want to say how proud I am of this council for being incredibly thoughtful in lieu of what seemingly is our hands being tied to a certain extent. I think everyone's captured all the ideas I can possibly think of to make this a lasting ordinance. I'm going to continue to ask parents to get more involved. We've had so many training sessions where parents have not shown up. Please continue to show up, talk to your kids, let them know why this is happening. Let us never forget what happened here. Somebody mentioned that whatever work that we do legislatively to give ourselves the power to govern ourselves, I would like it to carry Megan's name on it from this day forth. She lived in service of children, and now she's gone in service of children. And I think that's incredibly poetic and something that no one here should ever forget. I'm just proud of this community for coming out. Let this not be the first or the last time that you do. We need you. We can't do this alone. Be vigilant. See something, say something. Talk to your children. Remind them why this is happening so that this never happens again. And to my colleagues up here, you guys crushed it with everything that you just suggested. I think it's incredible that we can continue to have this level of discourse and make the best decisions that we could possibly make. But we can't do it alone, so please stay involved.
At the next meeting? Can I just ask that we're all clear though, we do want something coming back on impounding at the March.
And it'll be a list of things. And
right.
I'm okay with bringing an item forward in March, which hopefully will be an ordinance for your consideration.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think whatever we're going to do next, a couple things. Parents are not going to supervise adequately, and kids do not have the judgment, the experience, and liberated by speed, the self-control to responsibly police themselves. We've just learned that, I think. So whatever the solution is, we can't rest our hope on forlorn hope.
Okay, so we can wrap up. Thank you again for the entire community for coming out, and many of you who aren't here, obviously. Again, our condolences to the families. It's a terrible loss, but we're moving forward now, and that's the important thing. We've come together. We see the need. We have to proceed, and this is the urgency of having met today, calling this meeting, and getting everyone to respond and act in a positive way. And this is what we needed to have done, and we're doing it. We thank you for being here, and now we'll take a vote.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Yes.
Of the ordinance as amended.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Linden.
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCormick.
Yes.
Councilmember Moss.
Yes.
Councilmember Sardinius.
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Yes.
And Mayor Roscoe.
Yes.
The emergency ordinance is adopted.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And old, and in between, we're in this lovely park. We've got Debbie's beautiful violin accompaniment and the kids' chorus.